All right. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Trey Fab. I'm going to continue to do an intro, even though I am live right now. One thing you guys should know about me is I make content on basketball, drama, so TikTok, YouTube, cloud chasing shit, basketball, NBA, current events, whatever you think I can talk about, I will, or just basketball creators such as JxmyHighroller, which we're reacting to today. So please like, comment, subscribe, and let's get this shit going. Today's video we're reacting to is the most unethical hooper in basketball by JxmyHighroller. So let's go ahead and turn this up a little bit. Let's put this bitch at 1.25 speed. And let's start.
A player who is true to the game, plays basketball the way it was meant to be played. No flopping, no stat padding, just pure hoops. And the opposite of the unethical hooper. The player who relies on foul baiting and gimmicks and a barrage of free throws to fill the stat sheet. And right now, there is an unethical hooper among us. Well, at least that's the reputation Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is building at the moment, with some fans claiming his historic season has been propped up with foul hunting and an absurd free throw volume manufactured from gimmicks and tricks that are a disservice to the game. But if Shai is a foul grifter, a free throw merchant, then I've got some bad news about some of your all-time favorite players.
Speaking of people who foul bait or bait for fouls, I'd say, I want to speak on Luka. I love Luka. Luka's my favorite. I'm going to be honest with you. I love that he's with the Lakers now long term. We talked about this though. I crashed out. I'll go ahead and put that video at the end of this video. I crashed out because I didn't like the idea of the Lakers forefronting their championship for a future that may not be 100% guaranteed. Love Luka, but 1B is on the climb. SGA is there. Ant-Man is there. You can even say Tatum, even though he's a bit older, and Brown. So the league is stacked, okay? There's no guarantee that Luka is going to bring you a championship. He should, and with the talent he has, he probably will. So I understand the need to go get him, right? Grab him up, pluck him down, and put him in your lineup, because if Luka comes up for a trade, you get Luka, right? It's like if KD came up for a trade, you get KD. Or if LeBron in his prime would have came up for a trade, or even at the age of fucking 40 right now, came up for a trade, you get LeBron. But I think the biggest issue I had was just them forefronting a championship, because I do think that the Lakers could have won a championship with the roster that they had built already. But that's neither here or there. I'm talking about Luka and the fucking Lakers. This is about SGA, so we'll focus. I just want to say Luka crying and baiting, as far as that going, it can be annoying at times. Even as me as a Luka fan, it can be annoying. But anyway, let's keep this shit rolling. Let's keep going.
Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. The NFL Conference Championships are here, and whether your team is playing for a title or they're somewhere on a beach in Cancun, my partners at DraftKings are here to keep you in on the action, because they are offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. And yes, you heard that correctly. An automatic $200 in bonus bets for all new customers who place any $5 wager. And you can use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, you can still join in on the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have your shot at cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code JxmyHighroller, bet just $5 on any wager, and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code JxmyHighroller, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As the 2025 NBA MVP race continues to grow closer and closer, fans across the league are finding any and every hair to split to pick a side between two players having historically great seasons. The impossibly good Serbian gunning for his 4th MVP, or the superstar guard looking to break a 6-year chokehold big men have had on the award. And with a race this tight, deciding the most valuable player in the league may just boil down to the smallest, seemingly insignificant things, like free throws. Now, basketball isn't much of a thinking man's sport, but leave it up to us to create a philosophical divide amongst the type of players we like and don't like. On one side, you have the locally sourced, all-natural, ethical hoopers. And on the other, you have players who essentially rely on a bag of tricks and gimmicks to navigate games and get free buckets from the line. Do I believe basketball actually has any sort of moral code? No. In fact, the idea of a morally superior basketball player seemed like a joke until it entered the vocabulary of head coaches around the league, making it about as real as anything else. But there is something distinctly different about these two styles of play, both aesthetically and productively. The real question is how reliant on free throws these alleged unethical hoopers are, and are they truly earning their trips to the free throw line, or are they tampering the game with their bag of tricks? And a question we all need to consider, does Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his game even warrant the label of unethical? Now, one way to approach this question is simply by looking at the rates at which players are attempting free throws. When looking at a metric like free throw attempts per field goal attempt, SGA ranks 24th among all players this season, behind players like Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, Giannis, and even an aging James Harden, who was able to escape the claims of foul baiting and stat padding years ago. So just purely looking at the rate at which players are drawing fouls, SGA isn't doing anything out of the ordinary. But to better understand Shai's scoring profile, we need to look at the kinds of fouls Shai draws and where they're coming from. Most shooting fouls don't happen out here, they happen in here. Players that stay aggressive and drive the ball more tend to put more pressure on the defense and draw more fouls. This is why a player like Dwayne Wade, for example, who spent his prime years attempting 10 free throws a game, was never associated with any foul hunting. He earned his free throws. This season, the player who drives to the basket far more than anyone else in the entire league is Shai. In fact, nearly half of all of his free throw attempts are generated through his drives.
God damn. Got Jalen Brunson. Cade Cunningham, I'm telling you, Detroit Pistons, could they be back? Could they be back? Last time we checked, the Detroit Pistons were 8th in the East, I believe. Fuck. Where they at? Did they fall? Oh, no, they're 7th now. Hey. I'm telling you, Detroit being back is good for the NBA. That is my hot take. I don't know if that's that hot of a take, but Detroit being able to come back from the dirt and to be a playoff team, that's how you know the NBA is going to start getting better. I'm telling you. And I like Cade Cunningham, for sure. All right, let's keep going.
To the basket. And again, if we look at the rate, these drive leaders are drawing fouls on their drives. Shai is getting calls at an average rate, far from what you might see from other superstars both past and present. Which brings us to a real point of contention when it comes to SGA and his historic season. One of the odd and universally accepted aspects of NBA basketball is that superstars get calls. This has been a thing since the inception of the league. Once you transcend that highest tier of player, you essentially get the benefit of the doubt, even at times when you shouldn't.
He never controlled it, Michael. He didn't touch it with both hands. That's the thing. You think so, Michael? 55 hits, 2 to come. Michael, I just see 2 hands on it, Michael. But I believe you.
We see this as funny, and it is funny. And I'm not trying to hate on Jordan. I'm just saying shit like this exists for most big time players. Like shit like this exists when it get calls that usually other players don't end up getting, right? They get calls, they get the benefit of the doubt. One thing that's very good, hold on. There's this thing I read when I was younger, and it was very interesting to me, right? It's called, let me make sure. There it is. It's called 3 Felonies a Day, yeah? It's this book. It's this book right here. 3 Felonies a Day. Basically, right? I read this when I was like 14. What they were saying in this book is that at the end of the day, the feds were targeting quote unquote the innocent because they weren't innocent. I mean, they were, but they weren't. Because the way they would do it is that they would take you for a crime that you wouldn't even think you get charged for. But you can get charged for it. People don't know how many felonies they commit a day. They don't know how many crimes they commit a day. The number is actually kind of astounding when you think about it. But you don't really think about it. Because most of the time you're not going to get charged for it. So, yeah, this book talked about how different agencies would charge people for these low-level crimes in order to get bigger fish or in order to get them to admit to other crimes that may be more harsh or severe. And what I'm getting at with this comparison is that refs, if they wanted to, could probably call everything. They could spend the entire fucking game just calling shit. But they probably don't do that because they know how long that would drag the game. They could legitimately make like 100 calls a game. Probably speaking, the amount of times a player may be too handsy on a player, or the amount of times a player may pick up the ball with an extra step, or the amount of times a player may have passed it illegally because they took 2 extra steps, blah. You know what I mean? The amount of times a defensive paint call, a player spent way too much time in the paint. You know, that get called sometimes, but the amount of times they could probably call it more than once. You know what I mean? Loose ball foul. How many times can that be called? We watch these games. What I'm getting at is that all these calls can be called, but the refs decide, you know what, we're going to go against that. We're probably not going to do that because that's going to take up way too much time as far as the game goes. So we're just going to call what should be called and leave it at that. But if you are a big-time player and you're telling me, hey, can you please call this? Or, hey, you should probably call this. Okay, then I'm probably going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, Michael Jordan? You know what, LeBron James? You know what, Steph Curry? Okay, I'll listen to you. Sure. So, yeah, this is funny, but I just don't like how old heads act like Michael never got any calls when it's just, that's not the case. But doesn't mean LeBron didn't either. When you're a big-time player, you get calls at times. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do. Like, I think LeBron drove to the basket the most last year, or close to the most. It was either last year or the year before, yet he got, like, the least amount of calls behind, like, James Harden and shit. So sometimes it can work for you. Sometimes it can't. It just depends. But let's keep going.
But I believe you.
We know this, and we accept it. And Shai is a superstar, except he hasn't consistently gotten these phantom superstar calls this season. Since the introduction of tracking data back in 1996, there have been 36 instances of a player averaging at least 30 points per game for a season. And when ranking these 36 individual seasons according to free throw rates, SGA this season ranks 26th, behind guards like Harden, Wade, Iverson, and Luka. But again, most shooting fouls should come from shots taken in the paint or around the rim. Of course, players do get clipped on threes and long jumpers and draw fouls by other means, but really it's getting downhill that tends to generate trips to the line. And specifically among guards, Shai gets into the paint and attempts more shots from inside than any other prolific scorer since the introduction of tracking data. This season, Shai is attempting nearly 54% of all of his shots from within 10 feet of the basket. Meanwhile, players like Kobe, Iverson, Luka, Harden, and Dame all have multiple seasons where they weren't getting into the paint nearly as much and still yielded far more trips to the free throw line. Shai is statistically the most aggressive volume scoring guard in recent NBA history. He takes the most shots that historically should earn trips to the free throw line, and there isn't a single metric that suggests his free throws are inflated or unwarranted. Of the previously mentioned 36 seasons of 30 points or more a game, the average number of free throws taken per game across the board is 10. This season, Shai is averaging just 8.3. So, if anything, considering his usage and his play style, Shai is actually not getting enough calls. If we've learned anything from witnessing the last decade of scoring maestros, it's that this is just the nature of great scorers. They're hard to stop. They force the defense to get physical. They get you in positions you don't want to be in. Overreacting, reaching, even taking gambles hoping it yields you a stop or a turnover, when more often than not, it's just going to end up in another trip to the free throw line. And on an abstract scale of basketball morality, I don't think SGA plays an unethical style of hoops. I think he's a better and more prolific scorer than some fans are willing to give him credit for. He's not relying on free throws to get his numbers. When compromised, the defense is relying on fouling him just to slow him down. Most of Shai's drawn shooting fouls look something like this, where he drives into the lane and inexplicably rips through the defender's arms to put up a shot. It is damn near impossible to predict, and it works almost every time a defender cuts him off or puts a body on him. And we've seen this before with James Harden, a free trip to the line disguised as a shot attempt. In fact, this is like the 2.0 version of Harden's rip through, because it does a much better job of masking itself as an actual shot rather than an attempt to just draw a foul. And I think that's where most fans get frustrated.
James Harden was just throwing up shit and hoping, praying that it would go in, but he'd get fouled to go to the line anyway. Yeah, James Harden definitely had the allegations of being a foul baiter. But as far as like SGA, I watched a lot of games with Oklahoma City. They're a fun team. I think they're too young. I know that they're number one, but I think they're too young. Even if they make it to the finals, I don't think they're beating Boston. But that's neither here or there, because Boston needs to still get through Cleveland. But we will talk about finals predictions, by the way. I'll do a whole, like, tier list, I guess, we'll say. Or a bracket, I should say. We'll do a whole bracket towards the end of the season. and I'll give my predictions for each round. But right now, as things set, I think it's most likely going to be either the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Nuggets to come out the West. And I think it's either Cleveland or Boston to come out the East. But I lean towards Oklahoma and I lean towards Boston and then lean towards Boston to win it all. Nonetheless, though, that's a conversation for another day. As far as Oklahoma City, they're a fun team to watch, and I don't think SGA is a foul baiter. I just honestly think he is a fucking menace in the paint, and he makes you foul him. That's just... He makes you guard up on him. He makes you rip him. Like, I don't think it's, like, reminiscent of James Harden, because it's one of those things where if you don't get up on him, he's gonna score. So there's... Yeah. There's that.
With this kind of basketball, it's not necessarily the outcome of the move, but rather the intent. Because we know he's not actually trying to score the ball here. He is purely looking for a foul, and he knows he can get these calls. And you could call this unethical hoops, or you could call it smart basketball. Kobe Bryant was notorious for making opposing players pay for bad defense, drawing fouls for the sake of drawing fouls. And when he did it, it wasn't viewed as his fault for taking advantage of the rules. It was the defender's fault for falling for the move in the first place. If you don't want to get baited, don't fall for the bait. You reach, I teach, as some half-decent basketball player once said. Take this play here, where he gets the defense on his hip, out of position, and reaching in to disrupt the shot. Now, Shai is baiting the foul here, and he's going to get it every time, because he already beat the defense 3 steps ago. Or this play here, where Shai has a 7-footer in a mismatch, feeds him the bait, and Markkanen falls for it, leading to the shooting foul. Some fans may say this is an act of basketball sin, intentionally jumping into the defender instead of just pulling up off the step back. But I don't see it that way. You've got a 7-footer on an island with no help guarding the league's leading scorer, and you leave your feet on a pump fake. Shai isn't playing unethical hoops. He's taking advantage of bad defense. All the great scorers knew this, and they all took advantage of it. As much as we resented the tricks James Harden would deploy throughout his prime scoring years, it's worth asking the question, was it the foul baiting and free throws that allowed him to be the scorer he was, or was he such a great scorer that he could bend the defense to his will whenever he wanted to? Same thing goes for a player like Joel Embiid. If the gimmicks added an extra 10% to his production, would we concede that he was in fact a historic scorer, even if he had 90% of the production, but he did it ethically? Among high...
Joel Embiid needs to get back on the fucking court for more than like 5 games a year before I start praising him. I'm just saying.
Volume scorers of this century, players who averaged at least 30 points per game since 2000. According to this idea of honest scoring, 2016 Stephen Curry would be the most ethical scorer, averaging 30 points per game with just 5 free throw attempts. And on a scale of free throw reliance, 2025 Shai is far closer to Steph than he is to countless other all-time great scoring seasons. If SGA's game falls into the category of unethical hooper, then so does Kobe's and Luka's and Dame's and Iverson's and...
Look where the king is. Look where the king is. Look at Bron. Look at Bron. Look at Bron. Even over here, Bron's middle of the paint. Middle. Straight middle lining, less reliance on fucking free throws, You look who is reliant? Kobe. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, no, I think that SGA, as far as like the clips he was showing, I do think he's foul baiting for sure. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna give it to me, I'm gonna take it. I don't think he's purposely forming an offensive play where he's like, oh, I'm just gonna foul bait. I think it's one of those situations where it's like, we have a play in set, he's driving to the paint, and you fucking smack the shit out of him, so he foul baits. Or you're too close, so he foul baits, you know? It's one of those things where you just gotta properly defend the dude and hope you don't foul him and get him to the line. That's all. But it's another thing because maybe they're just defending too closely or too aggressively, and that's why he's getting to the line. But it's like, why are they guarding him that aggressively? Probably because he's so fucking good. You know? I mean, what's the plan? Give him space? Let him have space and shoot it? Yeah, because that's gonna work. You know, I wouldn't fucking do that.
And Durant, and all of our favorite all-time great scorers. It is an unfair label on one of the best individual seasons in recent NBA history, and it is objectively not true. And if none of that changed your mind, then maybe this will. Here is every single season in modern NBA history where a player averaged at least 25 points per game, 354 individual seasons since 1980, and they are graphed in terms of scoring average and free throw attempts per game. The further right a player is, the more free throws they attempted. The further up a player is, the more points they averaged. So way off to the right are the seasons of all-time high free throw attempts, and where you'll find most historic scoring seasons, like some Embiid seasons, some LeBron seasons, Jordan's highest scoring seasons, Luka, Harden, Shaq. Even the pure bucket getters like Durant and McGrady often found themselves at the line during the peak of their powers. So where does Shai's 2025 season land? It's right here. The 18th highest scoring season in modern NBA history, while attempting just the 142nd most free throws per game. And that, my friends, is some honest, homegrown, ethical hoops.
I mean, that was a good video. I like the video. Like I said with SGA, I honestly think he is a great hooper. I think he's probably one of the best in the league right now. Like I said, I don't even think a championship is fucking guaranteed at LA, even with Luka, considering the fact that LeBron's retiring and Wemby's here, SGA is here. So Ant-Man's gonna have something to say about that. You see what I mean? Like, there's a lot of talent in the league right now, and SGA is one of those talents, and he's very good when it comes to driving to the paint. That's just a fact. His mid-range game is crazy. So I get it. I wouldn't say he's a foul baiter. I would just say he's someone who likes to take advantage as far as getting to the paint of someone who's going to come up on him. He's going to take the shot. You're going to come up on him. He's going to take the foul. That's all. And I guess it could get kind of sticky with what's foul baiting and what's not. Would you call that foul baiting? I guess. Would you say it isn't? Maybe. So I wouldn't say he's an unethical hooper, though. Because in my opinion, being an ethical hooper is using every rule that you have in your arsenal to win the game. It's knowing the rule book. You're a hooper. You know the rules, front and back. I mean, obviously he knows what he's doing, so I think he's an ethical hooper. But hey, if you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you guys agree with me, let me know in the comments. But yeah, SGA, big time baller. I respect him. So if you guys like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Love you. Peace out.